Yeah, he's like, Bruno, answer your phone. Great.
All right, we're live on YouTube now.
Live on YouTube.
Oh my.
So let me just, I'll send you guys the,
Make sure to subscribe to the community guidelines. Hey. No, that's not the right input. Where you at? Is this the right input? Hey. Oh, there we go. I don't want to hear that, though. Go away. Get all this processing to go away. I sound like I know what I'm talking about. Can we share screens on here?
Yep.
That's just a really...
yeah, you
That's
can.
really, really handy.
Mhm.
If we're ever doing something where we need to be like, yo, Pro Tools.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't want to stop screen.
Cool.
Stop sharing my screen. Cool. Okay, so I have that all set up. Nice and blank. What was the other thing that I was going to do? Oh, yeah, you got that. There we are, the link to that bad boy. Like to surf the chat. Stir some trouble. Even though there's like nobody on the chat.
We lost your video there, Brune.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Are you still seeing him, Nick?
Bam.
Oh.
There we go.
There you go, you're back.
I have a very interesting thing to show you when we're actually filming the podcast, and you're not allowed to see it until the very end.
All right.
It's quite neat. We'll say that.
Man, I can...
Pop out chat, and then that way I don't watch the fucking feed. Fucking destroy my awful internet connection.
All right.
That's a smart idea.
Yeah, I see, because our internet connection is actually not good enough to stream this and do anything else. So
yeah, such is the entire country. So
is that kind of what's happening? The internet?
I just meant Canada in general because our
Yeah.
internet
Yeah.
blows.
Oh, okay.
Our internet's not very good, and then we pay a ton for it.
Yep.
So,
All right, so I can get rid of this page. I'm just going to close down some stuff as well to try to conserve CPU here. Oh, I just closed.
what do you guys want to talk about today?
I think the stream's still open, though. Hopefully I didn't just turn it off. I guess we'll see if it turns off.
I'm just going to start playing copyrighted music so that our stream gets taken down. It's on my phone.
So we can just start with... hold on a sec. Maybe if I
oh,
go...
is there a little folder? Did you make a little thingy?
No, I didn't.
I'll make a Google Drive, and we can all kind of just... Actually, we could just Google Drive it on here, and then that way we don't have to fucking open another thing. You know, if you got an idea, or you just want to say something silly, like, I have a small pain. But they wouldn't know that, because it's not in the recording.
Not unless you say it out loud while you type it.
Okay, it looks like we're...
This is true. This is true. The
We're not
YouTube knows
close. This
now.
looks like we're good.
The Google knows everything it
Okay.
needs to know about me.
That's true.
Yeah, okay, sorry, I kind of blanked out there for a sec. Do you want to start with... Can we just interview Nick to start and just sort of explain like what you do, how you got started, what you're working on right now, stuff like that? Just sort of riff on your career. And so we can start with your career, then we can maybe move into your music. We can do writing process, shit like that. Like, just touch a bit on that. We don't have to go, like, we can just sort of just riff. And then you had a few topics that you wanted to actually get into, right, Nick?
Idea.
Yeah, they, I don't know. They might be a little mean to you guys. I don't know if you're going to like the questions.
I like mean.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
I mean, whatever.
Let's get gritty.
Yeah,
All right.
let's get gritty.
I mean, I've been in a similar situation, so.
Yeah. All right.
You know.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is we're all going to start our recording devices. Let me know when you guys are rolling.
Yeah.
Rolling hard, baby. There we go. Oh, What did you think of that mic last week, Al? Did it sound okay? Like I'm using the normal one this week.
Yeah, I didn't notice anything weird
Any
about it.
difference?
Yeah.
Cool.
My headphones were leaking though. My open back headphones were actually leaking a
Oh,
tiny little
shit.
bit of audio. It was really annoying. So
Sorry, guys.
no, it's all
No
good,
worries.
man. Do you think?
I do find that all of these things that we're doing, like mixing audio, even
Test,
any
test,
color
test.
grading I've done,
Okay.
is like really prone to me just being like OCD set off.
Oh yeah.
You know.
So
Like,
you're rolling
oh.
now, Nick? You're recording?
Yes.
Okay, so
yeah,
I'm
I hope you have a backup in case it crashes. It should be fine.
yeah, well,
Yeah,
if it worst case scenario, we'll just have to use the audio that we're getting here from
Okay.
this through OBS.
oh, you actually get a recorded video through
You
OBS.
can,
eh?
yeah. I mean,
That's amazing.
I would prefer to not have to
so
use that.
what
but-
about this then, Al?
Yeah.
We have two sources. Can't we just flip the phase on those bad boys? Isolate this motherfucker right here.
Sure, you can.
That'd be crazy. Yeah, yeah. It's
You
my
go.
turn to edit
All right,
it.
so I'm gonna hit record. We're gonna get Mike. You're gonna clap, and then Nick, you're gonna clap after that.
Okay.
So, hold on one sec. Okay, go ahead.
Mike clap.
Nick clap.
Oh,
Excellent, boys.
That was
I
hot
feel like
one.
we formed a Megazord.
yeah, that's exactly it.
Excellent.
I have problem with these. Oh yeah.
Yes. Hello and welcome to episode 27 of the Music Guy podcast, the podcast about two working musicians in the Toronto, Ontario, Canada area. My name is Al Rowe. I'm one of your hosts. I'm a music guy. I play guitar, I sing, I write songs, I make records. My co-host coming at you from Markham, Ontario is Mr. Michael Hebbs. How are you, sir?
Oh yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I was gonna say sup, but you can just ask me how I am too. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm good. Markham's fine.
Yeah.
I built my bass traps. They're not all done. 4 out of 16, and then I ran out of my materials. So.
What are you using? What's your design?
I found this thing by this guy who kind of sounds like Forrest Gump, and it's like a big fucking triangle chunk in the corners of my walls.
Of like
And
rock
I
wool or
bought,
whatever?
Yeah. It's whatever the safe and sound stuff is.
Mhm.
But I didn't run out of the insulation. I ran out of the fabric to cover it. And of course, Fabricland is closed because it's not an essential service.
So you're just piling up the insulation against the wall in a triangular shape? Or are you actually building like
Pretty
a
much,
frame
and
for it?
there's a frame as well too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're using the wall as sort of your frame.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. Yeah, but it's
Right on.
I have 4 out of 16 done, so it's kind of odd looking.
That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of money in installation. $500, baby. Anyways, let's move on.
Yeah, well, we
Let's move
also
past
have
my
we
decisions.
have a very special guest today. It's my pleasure to introduce our friend, friend of the show, and
your
animator extraordinaire, and singer-songwriter, musician extraordinaire, Mr. Nick Mayburry. Welcome to the show, Nick.
Hey
Let's get a
guys,
little
thanks for
round
having
of
me.
applause for
we're
Yeah.
clapping.
for Nick.
We're clapping.
Small clap going.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hey,
I'll
man.
take
We'll
it.
make it sound bigger in post.
Yeah.
Totally.
Um,
Do anything in post.
How's it going,
you
Nick?
can do a lot of things in post.
Man, it's going good. I have a job right now that basically ended up as somebody saying, we can fix it in post. And that's basically how I make money now. So
You have a job now?
Yeah.
That's
What's
crazy?
look at
What
this
is
guy
a-
with his job, this fat
What's a
cat.
job?
Yeah.
Don't you just collect money from the government?
That's exactly it.
Honestly, I'm trying to right now because so what happened was I was working. I had a full-time job, and my contract ended right before this all went into lockdown. So I applied for EI, and when you're reporting for EI, messed up something, so they locked my EI,
Mm.
and they're like, to unlock it, just call in. It's real simple. And I'm like, well, it's not very simple right now because
No.
Yeah.
So actually, in fact, though, my girlfriend, me and her were sitting on the phone, and it took 2 hours. You know, you're looking at a 2 hour wait time if you're calling CRA. Maybe it
Wow.
was an hour and a half. I don't know, but it's not like 10. Somebody's like, it's gonna be 10 hours. I was like, I'm just not gonna do that.
they straight up disconnected me. Their waiting line is like 2,000 people or something, and they were like, we don't even have room for you. We're full.
We don't need your kind here.
I got
not at all.
I got booted off the phone multiple times with Bank of Montreal trying to call them early on actually, and my girlfriend was on the phone with them for over 2 hours on hold.
Yeah.
Eventually just
Yeah.
said fuck it, hanging up.
I mean,
Yeah.
so when you're on hold though, pop on speakerphone and just go about your biz, right?
Well, yeah, but it was getting to the point where it's like, well, time to go to bed. You know what I mean? Like
true that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
after a while. But
Yeah, your girlfriend's still working. She's a
oh
nurse.
yeah, yep, yeah, she's working super hard. Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Well, they did change the CERB. I think maybe today or yesterday or something. I read
It's
that
official?
you can make up to $1,000 a month now and still qualify for it.
Joke's on them. I barely make $1,000 anyway. I'm rolling in it now.
So
That's
you-
free
yeah.
money, baby.
Yeah, the government's subsidizing my poor decision making.
So even if I don't know what your contracts are like, Nick, but maybe you could still qualify now, even with all that stuff.
It's a big old mess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Um.
mean, maybe they could pay you in something other than money. Sexual favors, perhaps.
From the government?
That'd be pretty cool.
Have Trudeau speak moistly to me? Mm.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's the clip. That's the clip.
There you go.
You did it.
So Nick and I go kind of way back, I guess, a couple years back. I produce one of your first singles.
You produced my 2 and only singles.
Yeah, sweet.
So there you go.
So that was a super fun process. But you're not a musician by trade; you are an animator by trade.
Yes, sir.
So definitely a lot of crossover, I think, between the two industries and the way that the job sort of works. So can you just give us like a Cole's notes of like what your job typically involves, if you can?
I mean, I'll try.
Yeah.
I assume a lot of people are listening to this to audio too, which makes it tougher because animation, you like to use a lot of hand gestures.
Yeah.
So I'll just sub in with sound effects. And
Sure.
we'll see how-
Yeah.
I like that.
I actually explained something to a client today. I was like, yeah, so do you want like a little bloopy bloop on the fingers? And she was like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that
Sweet.
got it across.
Yeah, I'm glad that worked.
It's a
Yeah,
technical
3D
term.
animation. So if you think of, say, like Frozen, right? I specifically am just an animator. So when you watch that movie, you know, there's somebody that does all the lighting. There's somebody that makes all the people, that models them, that sculpts them. There's somebody that puts all the bones, the skeleton inside of them, and then there's somebody that
Wait a
actually
minute.
moves them.
Hold up. You're saying that Elsa has a skeleton inside
Oh,
of
yeah.
her?
Oh yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah.
Anyways,
There's yeah. I was gonna say I also worked on a Barbie movie, and you can everything has layers. So if you need to change Barbie's outfit, there's a lot of stuff underneath that.
there's hidden things. Getting X-rated is what you're saying.
It's I mean it's very smooth. It looks like a normal Barbie. Anyway,
So your job is to sort of make these digital models, if you will, make them move in a
yeah.
convincing
so
way.
they hand me the actual model, and I just like I grab a joint, and joint by joint, I start rotating things. Like every finger joint, I'm rotating. You know, move every single joint in their body, and then do that 24 times every second.
Wow. And there's a software, I guess, that you guys all sort of use that does that?
Yeah, the main one for animation is called Maya. It's actually a Canadian software.
Oh, nice.
Hey.
I think it's Toronto, made in Toronto way back when.
Right
by
on.
Alias. So
All right. And probably a lot of people wouldn't necessarily know this about you, but you're actually colorblind, are you not?
I am colorblind.
Really?
Yeah, which was very fun in art school. There's actually, so I had to take, in order to pass animation school, you have to do a lot of drawing and painting.
Ah.
So I remember in our painting class for the first semester, our teacher goes on this whole thing about the wonders of color, and had to put my hand up. I said, "Hey, I'm colorblind," and she's like, "Oh, okay, just do it in black and white." I was like, "Okay."
Oh, sweet.
So I do black and white for the first semester. It goes well, and then second semester, class ends, and she kind of walks up to me and she's like, "Nick, could you try to do it in color?" And I was like, "I can try." So we'd paint something in color and we'd put it all up on the projector, and everybody would judge each other's. And mine would come up and everybody would be like, "Oh, well, I guess that one's Nick's."
Oh,
All my colors are
Isn't
all
that like
janky.
asking a handicapped person, like, could you like try walking?
oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean,
Kinda.
well, because it's different though. Because I would imagine like you would have almost like a different perspective on color. Like, so
Yeah.
when you're colorblind, do the colors appear? Are you only taking in how dark or light those colors are, or would you see like a dark brown different than like a dark green almost in a way?
More the brown and the green for me. Like there's different kinds of colorblind. So there is one where
Yeah.
you can't see any color, but that's very rare.
Yes, yes.
And then there's like blue green or red green colorblind, and I have red green, which is the most common.
Yes.
Very common in men, which means dark
Spectrum.
green will look like brown, and red can look like brown,
Yes.
and as time goes on, orange is starting to look like green, which I think is dumb. So
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, it's almost like you would have like this interesting perspective. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, people were delighted to see my painting.
yeah, for the wrong reasons.
Everybody was very good natured about
Yeah.
it.
Oh, yeah.
There was I did a painting of a boat, and there's a bunch of like, I guess, moss or like seaweed on the bottom of the boat.
Yeah.
And it comes up and she's like, "What is this? This is a toxic green." And I'm like, "No, it's a gorgeous shade of green. What are you talking about?" So I opened the color palette in Photoshop and I put a colorblind filter on it so they could see every single color in Photoshop the way that I could see it. And my
very
teacher was like, "Oh my God, it's beautiful."
Ha, ha. There you go.
That's really cool that they
kind
have
of
that.
Cool. Like, that's really neat. You know what I mean? Because everybody else they're dealing with the same tools, but you got these cool, unique tools, you know?
Yeah.
Is there anything that's done in like post or anything for movies to better accommodate people who are colorblind? If you're saying it's somewhat common, like when they're rendering a film, are they trying to make it more viewable for more people?
I don't think so. I know, like for web design and stuff, it's people are pretty good at web design now versus like the late 90s like Rainbow or like Space Jam website, which is still
dude,
up, by the way.
I was just going to pull that up right now. You and me are
yeah.
like on the same level, man.
Just
Like, we
like
talking
this.
about Resident Evil.
Oh,
The Space Jam website is hilarious, and it is
so
still
good.
up. It's great.
I think
It's great.
the old Amanda Bynes website is still up too.
I'm gonna have
Amanda,
to check that out.
So
She's not working anymore.
Oh, I hope she's recovering.
Yeah, she's got a rough deal. I mean,
Yeah.
I shouldn't be joking about it, but
I'm not
I
aware.
did. So sorry, man.
It's kind of your jam.
Stay out
yeah.
of this one out.
So the nature of your work, Nick, is all contract based.
So the last 5 years, I've been working in Toronto on a lot of shows and films and VR stuff. Netflix, Amazon Prime, Apple TV, Nickelodeon, Sesame Workshop stuff. So
Wow, nice.
if you have a streaming site, I'm probably on it somewhere. But just at the beginning of March, my contract ended at my last job. So I decided to go freelance and work from home, which was apparently perfect timing.
Oh wow,
There
lucky.
you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So
But yeah, normally it is contract based. There's not a lot of full-time positions.
So typically a contract would last for 2 or 3 months.
Rarely. The ones I've gotten are a bit longer because it'll be probably for a season of a show. So maybe 8 months for a season.
Okay. Oh, that's
or
great.
If they don't have their stuff together, a year, up to 2
There you
years.
go.
So-
Nice. And is that sort of I don't know, you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to, but Like, is that the sort of thing where they'll say, we're going to pay you, this exact amount of money to work for us for a year? Or is it like hourly or?
It is a lot. It feels a lot like just getting a regular full-time job. So
Okay.
Cool.
a lot of places are like, this is how much we pay a week.
Oh, okay. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, that's dope. Because they like we talked about this before. Like salary would be real scary for people in our position. Because yeah, it's like, oh, amazing! I'm gonna make 50 grand this year working for this company. They could be like, oh yeah, you're working like 15 hours a day, bud. So that's pretty steep.
Yeah.
And you're working weekends too, like
Yeah.
7 days a week, so like that's sweet that you're getting paid a weekly rate where it's like, well, I worked, this amount of weeks instead of, well, when the project's done, you'll get paid this,
Right.
It's a
I
lot
mean,
of
there
room
is
for
also a
wiggle
lot
room.
of fishy. Again, this is a creative industry. It's a passion industry, so it's very
Yes.
easy to take advantage of a lot of these artists who are like, art is my passion, animation is my passion,
Yes.
and you end up working 60-hour weeks, and they're like, well, I'm not paying you overtime because this is the quota that I gave you. So
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, fair
there is
enough.
a lot of that.
Yeah, well, we know what that's all about over here in
I was
the
gonna say.
in the music biz.
Good times.
Um,
Great times.
okay, so that's pretty cool. And then, are you like part of a union or straight up?
No, in America, in the U.S., they have an animation union, but we don't have one in Canada. There's actually a whole conspiratorial thing about the Americans trying to set up a union here and try and topple us. And
Ooh.
yeah, people might think I'm crazy. I can't confirm that. This is just what I've
Yeah.
heard. America has a union, and so animators are paid very well. And because they are paid very well, an American producer will say, well, why don't we just have Canadians do it? They speak English and they're in the same time zone, and we don't have to pay them as much.
It's
Right
like
on.
shooting in Toronto versus New York, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, and part of that too is that Toronto can look like any city versus New York will always look like New York to a degree.
True.
Like, it's a lot easier to dress up Toronto.
I have a side question. Have you
Yes.
ever used your animation skills for to
For
make
evil?
like yeah, to make like have you ever seen the video game poop like Instagram things like the Skyrim things where they
What?
you've never seen it where they take a video
No.
game character and they animate that character doing something ridiculous? And they
Oh,
make
YouTube poop.
YouTube poop. That's the one.
I know what
Yeah.
you're talking about. No, I haven't, but I love them.
Well, you should because
You designed a video game though, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. So the first job I ever had, which is at a really big Toronto studio, went bankrupt over the weekend and locked everybody out. 500 plus employees. Yeah, and
Just-
they were still hiring at the time.
Just
so-
recently, or is this when you were
This
with-
was in 2016.
Oh, okay. Brutal?
Yeah, it was. They were called Arc Productions. They were working on a bunch of like Disney stuff, DreamWorks. We just done an Ice Age movie, and then
Wow.
all of a sudden, surprise, we're bankrupt, which is also very
we didn't
common.
see this coming.
Yeah.
Oh, they saw it coming. They
I
just
know,
didn't
I
tell
know.
us.
It's-
Yeah.
Like, how could they not?
Yeah,
how
yeah.
could they not be like, well, we're gonna have to shut down soon.
Oh my god. What gave it away was that every Friday we would get bagels. And one Friday, bagels didn't come. And the next Friday, don't have a job.
So if you're 6 months into a 12-month contract and that happens, what does that mean for you? You're out of work and that's it?
If you're out of work, yeah.
No,
it was scary because after that, a lot of the industry kind of came together. And also because this is one of the top studios in Toronto, so they're going to grab a lot of that talent. Like there's very highly talented people there. So it was just job fair after job fair after job fair. And I was waiting in line to talk to somebody. I was in line with my director. Like,
Oh boy.
Wow.
how am I going to get a job when I'm standing behind my director? Like,
Yeah. Wow. So that was a big hit to a lot of people then for that house to go
oh,
under.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was brutal because they were hiring people from China and stuff, and they'd come over with their family. They were about to start work, and now the door's locked, right? So,
Brutal.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember watching a film that you worked on, starring what's this guy's name? Jim from The Office.
Next Gen.
Yes,
You
Next
watched
Gen.
Next Gen on Netflix.
I watched
That
Next
was
Gen.
super fun to work
That
on.
was a beautiful film, like visually to watch.
It was gorgeous.
Yeah.
And you know what? Sorry to like overtake this conversation.
No, please.
I get very excited about animation.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. The coolest thing about how good that looked was that it was made on free software.
Wow.
Really?
Like you could download the software that we used to make that. You could download it right now. It would take you 5 minutes.
And I
Was
probably
it?
couldn't even
I'll
make a
ask.
stick figure on it, but
Yeah, I mean, probably not.
Yeah. I've seen some of the animation things because I was like, oh man, it'd be cool to make like an animated logo. I was like, I gotta stick with Photoshop. Photoshop is.
Yeah.
I don't even have Photoshop. I have like the free Photoshop GIMP, and it's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
that's as far as I'm going.
Man, you should. There's a free browser version of not of Photoshop, but like man, I wish I could remember what it was.
Canva?
It's not Paint.net. It's something else.
Is it Canva?
It's not Canva.
Canva's
I don't
pretty impressive though, eh?
Yeah, Canva is really cool. Honestly, I think there's a lot of businesses that just use like Microsoft Word art, and it's like, dude, just use a Canva template.
Yeah, the templates are good. The only thing I can't figure out how to do on Canva is outline text. Like put a stroke
really?
on text. I can't figure out how to do it. So if
I don't know. I haven't really used
Can't be
Canva.
done.
somebody show me,
Can't be done.
because like that's what's holding
That's
me back.
premium Canva.
There we go.
You got to join the Canva.
You know what they
Patreon.
do to get you for Canva is they don't do transparent images. So if you have a background,
No.
you can't have like a logo with a transparent background. It has to be a white or a black or a red or whatever.
That's not
so-
okay.
Whatever. They gotta make money. I don't give a shit.
I
Well,
mean,
that's
yeah,
true,
actually,
yeah.
fair enough.
That's what you
Canva.
get GIMP for, baby.
So just quickly, so that movie Next Gen, John
John Krasinski.
Krasinski, who was great in it, and yeah, the film's stunning. It's super like stylized too. It's got a whole vibe to it. But if I recall, when I talked to you about this, you said you worked on one scene of this film. Is that correct?
Yeah, so for that job, I think I was only 3 years into the industry, and again, like that movie is beautiful. So they're hiring like top dogs in Toronto, and I was not a top dog at the time. So the production was in crunch time, which means like, oh my God, the deadline is in 4 months. We are not done the movie. Time to hire anybody we can get that's, decent, that we know is a good worker to help finish this up. So I joined in the last 4 months during crunch time. And I learned a lot.
And then, so when you're on that contract, you're then reporting to that, what do you call them, like an animation house or animation studio, or?
Yeah, so I go into the studio.
Yeah.
I'm with everybody who's been there the whole time, which is very intimidating.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably the youngest person there.
Sure.
And I report to my animation lead, animation director. Yeah.
Nice. And so to do one scene took you 4 months?
So I worked on 2 different sequences. So a sequence being like, this is the montage where her and the robot are learning are doing mischief around the city.
Okay.
And there's another sequence where like this is the giant robot voiced by Jason Sudeikis is wrecking up the stadium and everything.
Okay.
So I was in both of those, and I had 4 or 5 shots in a montage, and then 2 or 3 shots of Robo Jason Sudeikis ruining a stadium.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And
And
so-
so for that, it was about 15 seconds a week or every 2 weeks,
Wow.
which is like the bare minimum. Like that's as fast as you can go and still have it look like a film.
Wow. Yeah.
Really? Wow.
So just to give people
Disney's on 1 second a week.
wow.
Wow.
Just to give people perspective on how complex the work is and how intricate it is. That's incredible. So what did I want to ask you next? I lost my train of thought. My bad.
That's what editing.
Wow.
So
This is exactly it. Post, baby.
yeah, that's right. We'll edit this part out. All right. So how'd you get started? Where did you study?
So many fun stories on the path to becoming an animator. Man, I feel like that's such a common thing between, like, I mean, any art job, but animation and music is that, like, as a kid, you're like, I want to be a famous musician. I want to play rock music
Sure,
like I
yeah,
hear.
yeah.
And then as a kid, it's like, I want to be an animator, or I want to be a comic book artist
Sick.
because I read Captain Underpants. And I thought that was
Yo,
dope.
I would
same.
read your comic.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's very sweet.
They
Yeah.
would have boats with toxic sludge on the bottom.
Yes.
Burgundy.
Burgundy is what I call a trouble color because I can't see it.
There you go.
Is it
Why
red?
is it
Is it
causing so
brown?
much trouble? It's so
It's
rude.
like, what is mahogany? I don't
Yeah.
know.
True that. True that.
Trouble
I think
color.
it's a type of wood.
It's weird, is what it is.
This is what I've heard
It's an
the
enigma.
carpenters talk about. I use
Carpenters.
pine. It's cheap. I'll never go beyond it. All of my sound panels, pine.
Oh yeah.
It's cheap as wood.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
MDF,
So
maybe?
you were, so we went to like Humber College. We went to music school, 4-year program, degree. The gist of it was like it was an incredible networking opportunity. It was a great opportunity to learn, and you sort of got out of it what you put into it. The degree that you got at the end, I don't even know where mine is. In fact, at the time that I graduated,
What's behind you on the wall?
That's what
That's,
I'm saying.
that's my-
That one?
that's my girlfriend's master's degree that I
That's fine.
sit in front of to try to
that
look more
that you
important.
flex
Even
on
better.
everybody
Yeah.
because we can't see the
Even
name
better.
Yeah. At the time that I graduated, the school wasn't even accredited, so I got like years later they were like, we're accredited now, so you can come on and pick up your degree for $50, and I was like, yeah, I'm not paying for that.
I
Yeah,
have a-
I'd rather keep
So
the 50
funny-
bucks.
Go ahead. Yeah,
I
yeah.
have a funny story about our degree, actually. One of our friends, Holt, tried to apply to U of T for a master's degree thing.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, yeah, no, you went to college. That doesn't count.
Oof.
And they didn't consider him on the same level as other people who'd gotten degrees at
That's so
universities.
annoying.
Yeah.
I mean,
Isn't that crazy?
the program costs the same as a university program. Anyways,
Yes, it does.
So that's our side of it. How does yours experience compare to that?
Nearly identical.
Okay, sweet.
Really?
Yeah, everything you're saying, I'm just nodding my head.
Yeah.
Yes. I used to have a podcast about this.
Oh, sweet.
Really?
Yeah. It was called I Make Art Hire Me. I tried to make it a video podcast, but it just
But
didn't
you
really-
got hired, so you don't need the podcast anymore.
Kind of, yeah. So it worked out. Originally I went to Sheridan, which is like the premier animation school in Canada and very highly respected around the world. It's in Oakville, Ontario. Then I dropped out.
Me
took a
too.
year off. Yeah, I was like, this is too much. I'm 17. I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
Anyway, so then I was like, okay, enough with. And the thing with that is that Sheridan was trying really hard to be a university, and they really trying to get that university money out of people as well for
Mhm.
an animation program, which honestly, like, so the difference of when I went to Humber, they're training you to get hired on graduation. So it's like, yes, we're going to delve into the artistic side of it, but mainly what we want to do is get you a job, get you a career, get you paid. So here's what here's what studios want juniors to do. We're going to tell you how to do that really well.
So they're not teaching you how to play jazz.
No.
In the animation sense.
The animation equivalent of jazz. No, they're not like,
that's good.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Whereas Sheridan absolutely would.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's interesting because a lot of people will just see that Sheridan degree and say, oh, they went to Sheridan. I don't even need to look at their work. You're in.
Sure.
But who's to say they're actually good? Who's to say that actually took versus, you go somewhere like Humber and your next job comes from your demo reel. So people look at what you have done in that program. It's not like most university programs, like you go to Harvard, an employer isn't going to read every single essay you've ever written.
Yes.
Right? They look at your grade. But in animation, they can look at every single thing you've done. And
Sure.
And do you think that's a good thing, or would you prefer to just be like, do you wish that your piece of paper at the end was, your key to opening the door?
So selfishly, I feel like you know how when you take a test,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to be good at what you're studying. You can just memorize things and do really good at it.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm pretty good at that. So I feel like I would do well with the degree and BSing my way into a job.
Mm-hmm.
But like in principle, I really like the idea of, yeah, I can see what you can actually do. And I really like the honesty that comes with like, hey, this is what I can do. You can see what I can do. Uh, there's no one's BSing anyone.
Yeah.
Right.
You
Well,
know
so
what I
the
can do.
idea is that the cream hopefully will rise to the top.
Yeah.
And like that sort of idea. So like if you're really good, you'll get the really good jobs, as opposed to the other way, I guess, where it's like, well, if I go to a good school, I'll get the good jobs, and that's the only way they're gonna, I'm gonna get those opportunities.
Yeah.
Um,
It's nice. It's kind of freeing. You
Right.
don't
yeah,
have to. You could, if you wanted to, you could learn animation online and pay
yeah.
half the price. And if you end up with good work at the end of it, you can still get hired.
Mm.
There you go.
But a big part of going to school is the networking, the connections and
So
introductions.
do you know anybody or have worked with anybody who's just like, I didn't go to school, I learned all this stuff on YouTube or taught myself, or like, is that a thing, or are we?
I wish I did. I didn't. I think it was a lot. I was gonna say 10 years ago. I guess maybe like in the aughts, in the 2000s,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
would have been more common. Because who's like, I'm not gonna make a school for animation. What is that? Playing with computers?
Mm.
Mm,
So, you'd have a bunch of like 3D graphics nerds coming out of LA, like, hey, uh, I can do animation. Can you hire me for hundreds of thousands of dollars? And then eventually the industry got crowded by a bunch of young, passionate artists. So,
Right. Sure. Same.
sounds like the current state. Yeah, current state of what we're dealing with.
Can you just talk for a second? Also about that, like the OG. Like I remember once you telling me about like the guys who did the Disney stuff when they still had to like actually draw on a clear whatever
this
what would you
animation
call that, like
cells?
a cell. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you were saying there's only like a handful of the guys that could even do it, or like can you just talk a little bit about like what that world was like before it became digital, 'cause sort of like our reminiscing to the era of analog, before the digital audio workstation, when everything you were touching everything and everything was going through wires and plugged in, and there was a certain vibe to that. There was a certain energy to the way the creative process happened, the way the music was made, that I mean, I don't know anything about because I started in this industry after computers, but people often harken back to that. It's like there's a certain just purity and energy to that. Like, do you guys have that same sort of fondness of the past in terms of the way it was done?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Really?
we also have the same sort of like traditional animation is the only animation. If you animate
Right.
on a computer, you're a fraud. Like
Right.
it's very much like there's a lot of nostalgia, and when you're learning animation, right, you study the masters, and the masters of animation are a lot of older dudes at Disney or Warner Brothers. There's like a famous book that every animator has to have when they're learning called the Animator's Survival Kit, which was written by a Toronto guy. Um, yeah, so another local shout out. And he drops a lot of old school Disney names, but yeah, a lot of people have that nostalgia for like hand drawn animation, drawing on cells, and like, wow, look at this, how beautiful the layout, the composition is. Because if you think about it, like when animation started, you didn't study animation, you studied art and drawing and figure drawing and painting and all this stuff. So guys who are really good at animation back in the day were really good at art in general. And the principles of animation were much like film. They were made up in the early 20th century. uh, I learned a bunch of rules, like, a walk cycle. These are the poses that go into a walk cycle, and this is how long a step should take. This is how long a run should take, if like a step for a run. But like, you can trace the origin of that. It's an old guy in America with a stopwatch in a park staring at strangers. And he's like, yeah, this is how long it should take.
Yeah.
I can get into that.
That's
Yeah.
brilliant.
So, and it's funny talking to some of the older guys who did a lot more hand drawn, but even now, like the golden age of animation is over, and even the oldest dude in the studio wasn't around then. So,
Sure, sure. And there's not really like I'm assuming except for like really weird artsy stuff, they probably don't use a ton of that like analog stuff.
um, they do, but you usually don't see it. So,
Really?
like, often there are people who are really good at drawing because they went to a school that, like Sheridan, which really, pound that drawing
Sure.
principle
Yeah,
into
yeah, yeah.
you. Whereas Humber was more like, yeah, we teach it, but you don't have to be amazing at it. If you can work the computer, it's fine.
So it's like the opposite of the Humber musical.
Although it seems like they've been going a little bit more. I don't know if blue collar is the right terminology, but like
Yeah, I know what you mean.
foundational. Here's what you're gonna need to know on a gig stuff.
Which is great.
Yeah, which I think is great. Yeah.
Fucking future, man.
So are there any films that are being made where the whoever's in, I guess you'd call them the director, whoever's in charge is like, we're doing this the old school way?
Yes. There's a movie that just came out called Klaus or Claus, Klaus.
Okay.
It's on Netflix. It was up for an Oscar. I don't think it won though. Yeah, that trailer dropped a few years ago, and every animator was like, "Oh my god, 2D's coming back! It's back, baby! Traditional, analog, let's do it!" And oh my god, everybody was so pumped.
Yeah.
And apparently it's a great movie. I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard great things.
Because there's
I'll look
obviously
it up. I don't recognize it.
there's obviously bands and artists that are like, we have the resources and we want to have this experience, so we're gonna go to a studio and only use tape, and like never open up a computer to do anything, and
Yeah.
they just do it for the sake of doing it, and it's cool for them. Like for guys like me, like reels of tape cost a ton of money, so it's not feasible to make records that way for most people. But I think it's really cool. And there's people who shoot photos on film still, because they want to feel that.
But they do it for like the look though too. You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
But you can fake that. Like you can get that look digital.
Yeah.
You guys remember that Foo Fighters record where Dave Grohl was like, we recorded in my garage and it was all on tape. It was all analog.
Yeah.
Like real music should be made.
Yeah,
and everybody was like, that's because you're a millionaire and you can afford all this
That's
tape. Why would
exactly it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That old music snob success millionaire thing.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I know.
I have problems with Dave Grohl
So do I.
as a person.
It's
I love his music and I love part of him, but the other part of him needs to just die.
I try not to.
Deceptive. It looks like such a cool dude and he says like really chill things. And then girl, why are you so judgy at everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I feel like he's like a politician like Hitler. First like, oh, this guy's getting the country together. That's cool, man. Like, and then, he just starts getting weird. Be like, we're going to war. We're going to war, guys.
Wow. Strong comparison, but I understand.
Your words, not mine.
Yeah.
Dave, I'm coming for you.
Yeah, I just try not to. I try not to think about the things he says and just enjoy the records. But
yeah,
nice, man. So back to the networking thing, like so you met, I guess, a bunch of people in school that you're still in touch with today, and is it a very word of mouth sort of business where if like a shop is looking for a couple of people, they'll ask around and say, hey, do you know anybody who's good, or is it a little bit more? Because I mean, in our business, it's all about who you know, as they say, right? It's like if we need a guitar player, the first people that are generally going to get asked is like the other guys in the band. Hey, you guys know anybody who plays guitar? And then it goes from there.
Very common on projects, especially projects where it's like, you have to be really skilled to do it. Because if you ask somebody who's really good, you're like, hey, do you know anybody else who is really good?
Yeah.
That's a lot better than sifting through 100 resumes from a bunch of 18-year-olds saying like, this is my passion. Ever since I was 8 years old, I wanted to, So what studios tend to do is they'll ask other directors, supervisors. They're like, have you worked with anybody who you know is good, who is free right now? They'll call them. And if not that, then they'll ask the lead animators. They'll ask other animators. And then kind of their last resort is to put out an ad and sift through all that. So
Right
That's
on.
fair. That's fair.
Yeah, that's super sweet. So I mean, often my advice to people who are trying to get started in music is to find other people similar age, similar skill level, and try to build something sort of from the ground up. You know,
That's fair. Yeah.
rather than getting in everybody's face, who like whereas guys like Mike and I have sort of carved out our little thing that we got going on. It's like rather than getting up in people's face and being like, "Hey, hire me, hire me, hire me," it's like you're more likely to get a positive result, I think, if you can find a group of guys, get together, and start. If your goal is to be a producer, start producing for people for free. Just start doing it, or start playing gigs and start trying to becoming a backing band. I mean, this is just me sort of essentially telling people what I did, but I feel like it's effective to try to build excuse me, a team or your own network of people who are on a similar level where everybody's sort of got the same amount of hunger and drive and everybody's pushing each other. What would you
Oh, sorry. That's like the best you've ever said it, though.
Oh,
Like the
nice.
way that you said it there is perfect. Well,
Yeah.
because also you have the advantage of the other people's strengths.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like if you're not a go-getter per se and the kind of person to go and find opportunities and shit,
Yeah.
like maybe one of the people is like really good at just hanging out and it's like, oh yeah, you should get my band. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So
Yeah,
that's
there's
really
so
cool.
many different like colors of this industry, what like Mike's alluding to. It's like you need that guy who's the hang guy, who's the people person who can like chill with, if you're hanging out with some people you might want to work with, they can win them over, and like and all of a sudden they want to
like,
work
oh,
with
he's
you.
a great guy. We
Yeah.
should get him.
And then, you need, and not to put down anybody's level of skill or anything, but that's such a skill in and of itself,
Yeah.
And then you just, you need other people with other complementary skills. Anyways, my question to you is, what would your advice be for people who are looking to get started in your industry? And are there any parallels there?
So many parallels. Again, it's funny, especially when you talk about like, the go-getter guy, the guy that can talk to people and like, just being a good dude, because often like there are very skilled animators, but they're big a-holes and they don't get hired.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've heard it straight from the mouths of people who hire people. They're like, look, I don't want to hire that guy. I absolutely do not want to hire that guy. And I will hire anybody else who can do the job.
Yes.
But if there's nobody else, then I have to hire that guy. But I don't want to.
Right.
So you get better or you get nicer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like also too, like back in Beethoven's time for music, you could be an asshole because nobody's fucking doing it. Or if you're the only person who knows how to animate, great, cool.
Yeah.
But there's too many people now. You can't be a dick.
So
That's,
we're always kind of riding that line, right? Because you want to be warm, you want to be approachable, you want to make people comfortable, right? Like in a lot of what we do, it's like the client is everything. We want to make the client comfortable. We want them to enjoy the experience that they're having with us, and we want them to have a product at the end of the day that works for them, right? That they're happy with. Do you find yourself riding that line between obviously being a great guy and being all of those things, but also standing up for yourself or being able to say no and saying, you know what, like I can't put 60 hours in this week, and do you find have you been able to find a balance where people respect you maybe because you're willing to say no at times?
I absolutely have found that. I think it's tough for a lot of artists to do that, to stand up for themselves.
Totally.
I don't know if you guys have a similar thing, but in animation, in the studio, you have a bunch of rows of artists, and then you have, the supervisors, the business people walking around kind of thing. And there's kind of like this internalized weird hierarchy where you're like, well, the artists are under the businessmen, if a businesswoman, if you're in business, I have to listen to you because I'm an artist. And it's like, no, we are all professionals. You've put in a ton of work to get here. And if somebody's asking you to do something ridiculous or something that you can't do, uh, you're allowed to tell them that that's a weird request, that's too much. You're allowed to stand up for yourself, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people are so scared to lose this job because oh, it's been my passion since I've been 8 and
Sure.
stuff. You
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
know,
Well, it's also it's in your probably best interest to be able to speak up because if they are giving you a weird request, they're going to waste a bunch of time chasing that request, right?
absolutely. I mean, yeah, like there have been times when people, they've asked me to do something really simple and like politely, I would say, yeah, I'm happy to do that, but it's going to cut into um, time where I'm animating, which is what you hired me for, which not everybody could do. Whereas this thing that you asked me to do, you could, anybody could do that. You
Mm-hmm.
know, anybody could arrange some files in a folder. I can do it, but just so that's going to take away from animation.
Yeah.
So,
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and likewise, a lot of animators are really scared to negotiate their salary or even talk about money at all.
Sure.
And
Oh, that's a big parallel with music.
100%, dude. Yeah.
especially going up to like a producer, like in their big office with all their like um, Golden Globe awards sitting out on the table that you're sitting across, and you
Yeah.
got to be like, "Can you pay me more?"
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Of course they
like
can. Look at
who
all
am
the awards
I?
they have. They can pay you. They can pay you way more.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, yeah, dude, like, you know, and the thing is, they are business people. They understand what negotiation is,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not realistic to be like, okay, so if you're not being a jerk, you're being realistic. So, if they ask you to do something and you're like, hey, I can do that, but it's going to take longer than you'd probably want it to. If
Mm-hmm.
that's the reality of it and you say that, like tell them. It's better to tell them.
Yeah.
You're not going to get fired. They're going to appreciate that.
Yeah.
100%.
Honesty
And
and just forthrightness, right? Like my approach is just like if I'm going into a situation where I feel like there's going to be a negotiation, I've got a number in my head that what I think the price is for what I'm doing. I'm going to say, this is how much it is, and if they are not down for that, I'm going to say no most of the time.
yeah.
I'm not going to try to sort of angle shoot my way into like maybe I could make an extra $50 if like because
Yeah.
maybe their budget's bigger than I think, or like maybe it's smaller, so I should offer this much. It's just like this is how much I think I'm worth. Is this going to work for you or not, kind of thing, and just keep it simple, keep it open, keep it honest. That's been my approach as of late.
You
Does
get
that sort
better
of
at it too,
yeah,
right? You get better at being like forthright and just like upfront and like not a mean way. Like
totally, yeah,
in the same way that you get better at lying if you lie a bunch or sugarcoating the truth. You get better at that as you get older, the more you do it. But if you like for me, not lying, but like practicing being forthright has been difficult with me because I kind
yeah.
of dance around, kind of like, well, like that would be kind of weird, man. Instead of just being like, I don't know if that'll work, and this is why.
Yeah, like I
You
don't
know,
want to lie to people. I don't want to say yes.
me
I'll
too.
I'll
Yeah,
do that for $50, no problem. If it's a
yeah,
problem, or I don't want to
yeah.
say, yeah, like I want 300 for that if it's not worth. If that's way too much money, then I'm lying to somebody. I don't want to lie to somebody. I want to say this is how
Mhm.
much. This is what my hourly rate kind of is in my head. This is how many hours I think this is probably going to take, and this is the price I want to do it for. And I think most people, like you're saying, Nick, just respect you being straight up saying, "Look, this is what the situation is," right? Um,
Absolutely. And I think, yeah, if you are rock solid, like I know how much I'm worth and I can confidently tell you how much this project should cost you, I think like that's the way to go.
mhm,
I'm still figuring that out because I just went freelance. So
sure.
I'm still in
There
that like
you go.
awkward dance around kind of stuff, but I'm trying to be as honest as I can and stuff like that.
But you still know in your gut what feels right or what doesn't feel right, I think, right?
Yeah, I definitely know how much is too little.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to put a. I mean, yes, I'm terrified to put a number out, but
Yeah.
I'm still gonna put a number out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
What?
And I think a lot of people are scared to put a number out there that's big because they're afraid that the other person's just going to go, that's too big. No, you don't get
Mhm.
it. Goodbye forever. When it's
Mhm.
like, no, what should happen is if you put out a number that's too high, they should be like, whoa, that's too high. We were thinking something like this or something within this, in which case you can renegotiate and say, okay, well then maybe we can strike this work off of that, and maybe the project
That's
won't look
exactly
the
it.
way you imagined it, but
Mhm.
Yes.
we'll get something that works for your budget that will still look good.
Just
Perfect.
in the same
Perfectly
way
said.
that if the agenda is doing a project, you give them a bunch of options, right? It's
Yeah.
like obviously you want the highest quality, but if they're like we can't afford to do this number, you're like, well, we could get rid of this and maybe the product will suffer a little bit. You know what I mean? Or
Mhm.
maybe it won't. But we just like to do this instead.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to come at it's going to come at a cost, right? Like
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
something. But I mean, the beauty of what we do is that we have a budget spreadsheet and it's all there. And
Yeah.
like
Yeah, that's so
we
smart.
just it's so easy to say no when we know that we can't do the project for
Yeah.
that price because it's just not going to work. We have so many expenses and so many costs, and everything is like right down to the cent. And we're still working on our budgeting skills to the point that sometimes we're still not covering our own end enough because there's unforeseen expenses and stuff like that. So it's
Sure.
there's
Yeah. Yeah.
never really any wiggle room without actually changing some of the parameters of what of the work that's being done. How do you feel, Nick, about doing work for free?
It depends. I think a lot of younger artists are a lot more susceptible to falling into pitfalls with that. I think that there are certain ways to do it. I know that in animation, I actually just recently pitched for a free job, and that was because after my contract ended, I didn't have anything.
Mm.
Sure.
So what I did was I went onto this like indie games website, and they were looking for animation volunteers. And I scrolled through all the crappy games, and I found one that looked really good, and you can tell the team was doing good stuff, but obviously their budget was low. So I messaged them and I said, "Hey, I really like what you guys are doing. I have some time available. Here are my credentials. I've been working for 5 years. Here's my LinkedIn and stuff. Um, I would be happy to help you guys out. Uh, Based on your style, here's what I would like to do. So, like for example, I would like to do more cartoony animations. So maybe
Mm.
you have some animation you need to put on a boss or something. Like I don't want to do idle cycles. Like I'm happy to do an idle cycle if I can do the rest of the
What's
flashy
an idle
animation.
cycle?
Yeah,
What
the
what?
like Street Fighter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Or in the choose a character screen.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
They're just kind
Yeah.
of bouncing around. Okay, I got
Oh
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so you know, I was like, hey, I'm happy to do all the animations for one or two characters. Let me know. And the idea with that was that, and I also asked if I could put it in my demo reel afterwards because then I can show people, hey, I have been working this month, and here's something in games, which is not something that I have a lot of material
That's
for in my demo
so
reel.
cool.
Mm.
Yeah. That's such a good idea because it's like an area of your portfolio that you haven't like explored and you're not doing free stuff like, oh, I've done this a bunch before. I'm already like known for doing this. It's like something that
Yeah.
you're not as known for doing. Just like, but I can do it. Here it
Yeah.
is.
So
A
you're
hundred
Very
percent.
cool.
so there is some value for you there because you're able to expand your portfolio and potentially network a little bit as well in the process.
Absolutely.
But
Plus, there's a whole team behind it. So I animate it, but I don't texture it. I don't paint it. I don't light it. They do that, and then I get to show the finished product,
Right.
and they get
Yeah,
work
yeah.
for free from a professional artist. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's mutual. In
one of
that
the
sense.
key things you mentioned right off the bat, though, was that their budget was either very small or non-existent.
Oh
Right?
yeah, if it was like Ubisoft and they were like, "Hey man, do you want to work for exposure?"
Yeah.
I'd be like,
Oh.
"No."
Because there's been a lot of problems about, I think it was with EA, Electronic Arts.
Oh yeah.
Maybe I'm talking nonsense, but them taking advantage of like employees and all that kind of stuff and just not paying people.
Oh.
Is EA the one that loves loot crates in their games?
I don't know. They make all the sports games like NHL. Well, they make a
Did they
ton
make?
of games.
They made the Star Wars Battlefront, right? The one that people just
Maybe.
boycotted.
Maybe, yeah.
I'm pretty sure
Anyways,
it's EA.
maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm off my rocker here.
It's just
but
like a way to squeeze more money out of people. And
right.
it's like, well, I
yeah.
paid $70 for this game. This is more like a free to play game tactic.
Yeah, the free to play. That whole model. It turns out to be more lucrative than the original.
Hey, man,
Yeah.
gotta make money.
Oh yeah. But yeah,
Well,
I mean,
and that's something else to watch out for. It's like, well, we don't have a budget because it's a free to play game, so it's basically going to be Fortnite. We'll give you 1% profit share, but we're gonna make millions. So
Sure.
work for free, but basically you're gonna be buying a house after. It's like, actually, I just learned Borderlands 3, the people who make that did that for Borderlands 3. So they would give out checks of profit share to a lot of employees, and you'd be making way under what you normally would.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess the way it came out, they released it on Origin first and then Steam like a couple months later. So this game did not make a lot of money, and nobody got those checks. And everybody was very upset. So.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's a little bit greasy. I mean, yeah.
That's
so
greasy.
look out for, there's got to be a balance somewhere, and have expectations.
You have to get something from it.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you, and I think when you're getting started, especially, just getting your name out there and getting that work experience and making those connections, I think is a pretty important thing to do. So I think people should
like when. Sorry.
I think people shouldn't be afraid to do stuff for free. But
Yeah, when old people, it's generally old people that I talk to say that, like they're like, oh, don't work for free, or they make like hard rules where it's like, oh, I'll never do this sort of thing. And it's like, well,
those are the
I
same
don't
people
know.
that turn around and ask other people to work for them for free.
yeah.
I think Nick's totally right. Like if you see it as an actual of it having some value for you outside of the money side of things, then it's worth doing. And as long as everybody else is, if one person's getting a ton of money and you're working for free, that doesn't feel right to me. But I think it's a good way to build connections but there does come a time where, if you do too much for free or for cheap for people, you do too many favors for people, sometimes you can get into a situation where people are expecting that of you and you're not sort of getting respect or, that kind of a thing. So you want to...
Or they expect it from everybody else. And I know you guys have talked about this before. You don't... I think you guys said you didn't believe in it a lot, but like if...
Undercutting.
No, like so say a lot of artists are all working for super cheap.
Yes.
People like drives the wages down for everybody kind of thing, because like, well, I can hire 100 other people for so much less than what you're asking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry, that's what I meant. The idea of undercutting. By work cheap, you're undercutting the whole market.
Yes.
As opposed to just undercutting one person.
Yeah.
Because you see that where people are like, they'll be like, oh, this band's doing it for that, then we're going to do it for this. We want this opportunity. And that's some straight bullshit.
A little bit
right
greasy,
there.
yeah. But it's a hard concept to really... there's not much tangible about it, because like if somebody undercut me, am I even ever going to know that happened?
This is
and
true.
like,
but there is a band. There
still doesn't mean I would have changed my price. So
there are like I've seen it in wedding bands where it's like certain ones will do it for a certain price, and then another band comes on the scene, and then that wedding band that was doing it for a certain price does not get hired anymore. Once again, like that's a different situation. Well, it's not a different situation. You could say it's for a variety of reasons. But then also the other thing you're saying, Nick, is more like on like a macro level. Like if everybody gets into this habit of working for this, then the whole thing just goes down. The whole system gets tanked. Which, I mean, I feel like it's a delicate balance,
If
Scary
only we
delicate.
had a union that could get everybody
Oh, you
together.
have
I'm joking.
It just represents only orchestras. which is going to be a really bad time for them, like 60 years from now.
So
when orchestras are kind of not a thing.
yeah, I don't know.
I didn't even know they were still a thing.
Thing.
Really.
You get pensions, all this stuff, all of the
Actually?
yes, all the musician union stuff is
great.
like 90% cruise ships and orchestras.
Oh.
Yep.
But orchestra work is good work if you do it well.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Like there's enough money in being in an orchestra.
I think
to
there's just
fund-
very few
Crazy money.
chairs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if
How
you're
often does an
making
orchestra.
I mean, well, you know what? I mean, I'm getting a little bit beyond my scope of knowledge, but I think you can definitely grind out a full-time living playing in orchestras.
Yeah.
I think there's very few chairs available, but they're
And then you probably do private events on the side as well too.
Yeah.
But like you play with an orchestra. I know that it's like a salary position.
Wow.
Yeah.
so.
That's
I don't
nuts
know.
to me.
Salary, I don't know.
Can
It's a lot of money.
can you just give us like a quick hit list of like some films you've worked on or what you're working on now? Like what can you talk about? I know a lot of this stuff is hush hush, but
Yeah.
You're working on the new Avatar?
Oh man, can you imagine? No, I've done a lot of like children's animation. So that's a lot of work in Toronto is children's animation. So Rusty Rivets, children's television. I did a Barbie movie straight to DVD.
nice,
Yeah, it's actually very exciting. It's kind of like my big film break.
nice.
I did that movie Next Gen on
Yeah.
Netflix. With
Yes.
a ton of fun. So proud that I was on that.
Yeah.
And what else? Abby Hatcher was something I just worked on, which is the same studio as Paw Patrol. So my
Okay.
family's very upset that I turned down Paw Patrol. But I was like, "There's too many limbs. I can't. I don't want to do that." I just got
This is
off.
gonna be a lot of work.
I just gotten off working on a bunch of aliens with like so many limbs, and I was like, "I'm
Yeah.
done with limbs.
Done with the
Yeah.
Give me humans again."
So I mean, it's almost like a similar thing. Sometimes I've worked on something, and I almost like to the average person they don't know like the significance of it to me. Like the Barbie thing. It's like sure, like obviously in your mind you're like Barbie. I didn't play with Barbies growing up, but it's like I'm sure that there were things about that project that were exciting for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, it's interesting, and probably the same with music, where people are like, "Well, I thought you got into this in order to work at Pixar and Disney," and it's
Yeah.
like personally, no, like that would be great, but like,
Yes.
with you come out of school and you're kind of hit with like, oh wait, this is a job, and somebody's got to make Barbie Starlight Princess. Somebody's got to make like Lego Avengers, right? So
Yes.
and there's no shame in that. Like
That's exactly it.
there's a ton of talented people on these like children's animation shows, like amazing artists on this. And I'm sure, and some of those theme songs were banging. They were absolutely
That's exactly it. It's like I feel like when you're working a job like that, obviously there are things that are just instantly exciting about it, and then there's things where it's like, oh, I can actually like pour myself into this, and this is going to keep me engaged and like learning and like stuff like that. I've definitely done some things where it's like maybe to an outside person they'd be like, this isn't doing like I'm not playing with like a Def Leppard or something like that, but it's like to me I'm like this is pretty cool for almost nerdier reasons for me,
Right.
Yeah.
like, oh, I got to use this instrument that I've never recorded before or something like that, which is cool. I kind of like that now being like a jobbing person and being a freelancer. You run into these situations where from the outside they just look like a regular job or you're like whatever, but it's like you get like a little I don't know, you get to do something interesting that keeps things exciting for you.
Yeah, I think like creative industries, everybody has like, what is the top of the top? And it's like rock star or I'm directing a Disney movie. And it's like, anything less than that, it's easy for people to be like, oh, like cool, you do music. Like what's your band? And it's like, I make, maybe I make theme songs for children's animation. Like, oh, cool. Yeah, cool. And it's like,
and they like write it off.
Yeah, if
and
you're
like
not
making any amount of money in any of these industries is You know how freaking hard it is?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Man.
Sure. Yeah. And if you're not in the 1%, people assume that you're not even working. They're like, well, you must have
Yeah.
you must have a real job, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
also too, they wouldn't even know. You know what I mean? Like, so say for instance, what if you made theme songs for like what if you were the theme song guy? You know what I mean? Like,
You would be huge.
yeah, and they
You'd probably
wouldn't
make
think
so much money.
the average person would just write you off. Like,
Oh, yeah.
if you were a library composer, nobody knows the names of most of those people unless you're like really inside people. And
I
like
don't
those
even
guys
know
make-
what that is.
Library music is like so. The idea is you write a fuckload of music, like 500 or 600 songs,
Right.
and they're like good to go. You post them up on these music libraries. Somebody's like, I need a song for a commercial. I need it to have a flute in it. I need it to be sassy, and I need
Right.
it to have like this sort of tempo. And it's like though the guys who do that are great at it, but you wouldn't
Yeah.
know their name, you know, and they make a ton of money, you know.
It's funny thinking about stuff like that because a lot of people don't, you don't hear it, but you feel it within the commercial or the movie
Yeah.
or whatever. Like
Yeah,
you're not listening to the melody so much as it impacts you.
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
But so a lot of people would think, oh, you downloaded that from an internet site for however many bucks, and it's like,
Yeah.
the amount of skill somebody needs to know to make that is pretty
Yes,
significant.
Sure. Yeah. And for that music to be good enough that people do want to pay for it and use it in their
Yes,
in their original
also
work.
someone to choose it and like choose the right one and it like
Mhm.
really fits the mood so that it doesn't stick out,
Yeah.
and be like, oh, that's odd.
So let's talk some music, Nick.
All right.
He's on
This is
Spotify.
no longer my expertise.
He's on Spotify under the name Maybury, which is your
Yes.
last name, Mayburry.
Nailed it.
Can we play?
Sounds like
Can I play a little bit of something
Yes,
for the
please.
people? This is your song called "Crazy Starts with A." I'm gonna put it up on the stream here. If you guys want to check this out, give him a follow on Spotify. I'll just listen to like 30 seconds of this.
Oh,
Staring at your phone won't make her call. And countless others have broken who thought they couldn't, but who wouldn't? Between a cracked screen and your iris is a deadly hope that beats the silence. But I'm not fooled. You're out of her league. Don't play your games. Don't message her. Don't think her name. Yeah, it's hard once she's gone. But you can get better, baby. You'll move on. You feel everything, always settling. If she feels anything, it's unlike her. Backwards pedaling, trying to save everything. Heavy hand and hollow heart are gonna tear your world apart.
All right, so that's a bit of "Crazy Starts with A" by Mr. Mayberry himself. Mayberry, I should say.
Produced by our
Crazy.
very own Al Rowe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. So
Round of
that was a
applause.
song that we did at my old place with. So Nick came over with some lyrics and some chords, and we kind of just fleshed out a song, and then programmed the drums, recorded the bass, recorded all the guitars. Just kind of did it all in one day.
really?
And then I mean the overdubs and the mixing and the stuff took a little bit longer than that, but
Yeah,
but it was
yeah.
a pretty
to say.
pretty quick process. One of the faster. That was when I was starting to really push myself to get things done quickly, just because that's the best way to do things. I mean, you want to do the job right, but you don't want to get too deep into stuff, and you want your clients to get their projects back in a timely fashion. And if you're always pushing forward, I think you're making the best creative decisions when you're just sort of going with your gut and keeping that forward momentum going and not getting sort of bogged down and stuck in sort of circular, repetitive patterns where you just keep going over stuff and changing stuff and not really getting
Sure,
anywhere.
Possibly you making it worse.
Mhm,
like,
yeah,
It
and
gets-
we've all been
certain
there.
Things get a little bit better, and then it's like you make this thing a lot worse, and then it's
I was
it's
like
messy.
super psyched to work on that though, because it's got that pop punk kind of sound, which
That
like
is
I
your
mean I used to
wheelhouse.
be in a band that was all about that. and I listened to so much of that music and just hadn't got a chance to like sink my teeth into
Yes.
producing music that sounded like that yet. And so that's what was so exciting to me about getting to work on that. And it's kind of like you were saying about getting to work on that video game, you know, even though the low budget kind of thing, it's like,
Yeah.
but this is a thing I want to do. So yeah, let's do it, you know? And I
It's kinda
liked
neat
your music.
oh,
I
sorry.
liked your lyrics. I liked your melodies. I wanted to be a part of it. So
Gosh.
yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Al.
Well, also too, like it's like you kind of said, like you're talking about the low budget thing. Going back to our earlier thing, it's like you're kind of almost chasing just that excitement, you know, things that excite you, and it's like obviously you want to get paid, but it's like that's a big factor as well. Things that excite you. It's like, oh, I want to do
Yeah.
a pop punk song. It's like, oh, this guy wants to do a pop punk song. Let's do it. You know, like it's cool.
So
I like that.
not only are you like a professional animator, which is an entire like lifetime worth of skill set, but you can also write songs, you can also sing, you can also play music, and you want to do that. And I mean, I guess you'd call it strictly a hobby at this point. You
yeah.
also filmed a music video for that song. And
Yeah.
you did all the
Yeah.
you did all the things, man. Like you're doing all the stuff that people like me who claim to be pro at this are trying to do. So like you did all the stuff, man, and it's like
Yeah,
it came out
yeah.
sounding great and looking great. So do
Thanks.
you want to talk about a little bit about how you maybe got started playing music and like how you maybe a bit of how you wrote that song, what it's about?
Sure.
whatever you want, man,
Yeah,
just-
you know what it's about, which is very funny. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I took like guitar lessons when I was 10 until I was 13, and I didn't even know chords. Like I only knew power chords, and I'm still not a really great guitarist. Yeah, right. And so I've actually been slowly learning more guitar.
Yeah.
Wow, I should have learned piano.
The learning curve on piano, I find at the beginning is a little bit less steep. But one of the things that I think intellectually, there's a lot of thinking going on in piano. You know
But
what I
it's
mean?
laid out so that, you know, it looks
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it looks like what I imagine music theory is like.
Totally.
Yeah.
Music
Yeah,
theory
so,
makes
you know.
way more sense to piano players than it does to guitar players.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, and then I got into this phase where I would just like go on Ultimate Guitar and just like play songs that were stuck in my head, and that's how I learned. So I was like, I can't get this song out of my head until I play the chords of it. And then once I knew chords and kind of knew like the very basic like major, minor, minor, major, major, then I could make a song out of it. You know, like you start on one, which is major, and then you can go to
Sure.
four, which is, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I was listening to like I would kind of write songs, but I don't really think I knew what I was doing for the most part. I was just making music, and then like I said, I got a little better at structure, and I got kind of nerdy about songwriting, and I looked into it a lot. I was listening to a lot of you guys know what folk punk is?
no, never heard of it.
Goodness, wow, it is,
Folk punk,
or like crust punk.
crust punk.
Sounds awesome.
It's
I
basically
love the
like
crust.
Like, yeah, so it'll be like these punks from the States. I think a lot in the South, I think, and they just like don't shower, usually homeless. There's a lot of drug and alcohol abuse involved, for better, for worse. And, you know, all they have is an acoustic guitar and a very deep ballad. And so the recordings sound horrible, but some of that songwriting is killer.
Right.
Even though the recording is bad and all they have is a guitar. So I was like, that's cool. Like,
Nice.
you know, if this guy can write a song down there and it sounds great, all I need to do sounds good recorded.
Yeah.
And then I started to get like the recording bug and getting kind of nerdy about audio production, which is so frustrating because I'm still not very good at it.
Oof,
but
it's so hard.
I'm sure it's frustrating because you're like a good animator too. And it's, you have so
Yeah.
much freedom in that domain, and then this comes up. And
Yeah.
fucking.
I
thing.
should be good at this. Yeah.
it's true. Like
Yeah.
learning, like I can learn video software fairly quickly and I understand the term. And some of that translates to audio. But at the end of the day, like I have an eye for video and motion, but I don't have an ear for audio. Like
Sure.
I open a compressor and I look at it and I'm like, okay, I've listen to hours of what a compressor does. But I can't visually. I wish that when I applied a compressor, it would change the waveform. Because if I could see the waveform change, if I could see it with my eyes, then I would be better at it. But it's all ears, and it's not something I work with 8 hours a day like animation.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean,
so anyway,
the problem with visuals in that domain is even if you, the end result is audio. So you have to.
So it'd be
know,
useless, right? It's like,
well, it would. I mean,
you got to take the hard way, train your ear.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, you could get so good at knowing what your plugins are supposed to look like when they're doing the good things that you could. And so many of us rely on the visual cues to know where things are at. Like we're using
stuff like that.
Yeah, we're using metering, and we're using like we're visual learners, most of us, and visual creatures. And you're looking at EQ curves, and you're like, this is kind of what it looked like last time. It sounded good, and you're definitely using that. But yeah, I mean, the greats, they can hear it, man. They can hear through 6 feet of concrete. They can do it. So, anyways, So you wrote this song, Crazy Starts with A. We recorded it. We did another one too called The Wrong Side of 25.
Yeah.
You put it out
like
there.
That title.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're all there, I think.
Yeah.
I actually wrote it because I was 24, and I went on a date with this girl, and she found out I was not over 25. She's like, "Oh, you are on the wrong side of 25." And
wow, that girl has a good way of speaking.
Yeah, I was thinking.
I was like,
opposite.
"That's catchy. I'll write a song about it."
So you released the songs to all platforms. You made a music video for both.
Yeah.
And how was the reception? Like, how did you feel about the process? Were you satisfied with how things went? Was it more just like, I'm doing this because I want to, or what?
Oh, I think it was more like feeling out. It was, man, the most psyched I've ever been was getting that like final mix, being like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, you write it on an acoustic guitar, and then, I'm nerding out about all this music production, and then, wow, it actually sounds the way that I would imagine it, and even better, which is what a good producer does. And yeah, I don't know. I was like, I'm gonna, I know how to put it on every music platform. It's not that hard, and I can film video. It's not going to be great, but like, I don't have to have a $1 million budget looking music video to make a music video. Like,
yes.
I can make an okay music video for this amount of money. And so actually I didn't spend any money on them. So, cause I already had the equipment.
Right.
There you go.
And then the distribution.
And it was just fun. Like I like
Yes.
shooting video. I like editing video. I like music. I really like music videos. So it was cool.
One of
It's fun.
the things that you were saying was when you got the mix back and you were like so excited that it sounded the way you sounded. I bet like, because one of the things when I work with someone who's never like recorded themselves before and like heard themselves recorded, they are almost surprised. They're like, I actually like sound when they get the finished thing. They're like, oh, I actually sound like real. You know what I mean? Like, like I didn't think I could sound like that. That's a cool feeling.
It's funny how much, the video comparison would be like, oh, I thought I was always really ugly. But then somebody takes a picture of you with like, you have soft boxes, you have soft lighting, you have a background, you have a rim light on you. And, like all your flaws are smooth from the camera. Like, oh, actually I look amazing.
Yeah, that's such a great comparison. Yeah.
Yeah, similar to music. It's like, oh, once you put my vocals through, like you tune them slightly, you compress them, and you make them sit above a bunch of killer music that's coming out of in stereo. Like, wow, I sound legit.
Yeah, when you frame it in the right way. And absolutely, man. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing about recording is that it's as soon as you record a signal, it's alien now. Like our ear is not used to hearing stuff that's recorded. So everything we're trying to do inside of recording software is to make this absolutely bizarre thing, which is like my voice vibrating a diaphragm and a microphone and then being turned into voltage and then being turned into digital information and then the reverse of that happening and me being able to hear it, trying to make that palatable and exciting. Like the sound of anybody's voice through a microphone with no effects on it is not good.
Yeah, you have to like warn people too.
Like,
Do you
even the
warn people that you're
greatest-
recording.
What's that?
Like, do you warn people that you're recording, or do you just not let them hear it until it's like?
Well, it
processed?
depends on the client. I mean, people who have been doing this for a while know what to expect and they're comfortable. I mean,
Yeah.
hearing the sound of your voice recorded, even on like an answering machine or like a voicemail back in the day or whatever, is like, this is weird. I hate this.
Somebody talked about it being an evolutionary thing. We didn't evolve.
Yeah, it's just
hearing a
it's
recorded
just
version of
totally
ourselves.
alien to our brains, right? But I mean, people who've been doing enough recording, they get used to it. So I can play them back stuff of their vocal, and they can be like, "Yeah, I want to change this. I want to change that." People who haven't done much recording before, you play their voice back, and it can destroy the vibe of the session because they get freaked, right? So
Yeah.
you got to kind
It's
of
funny-
read the situation a little bit that way.
It's funny recognizing myself, like even video recorded, like because you record enough of your own voice or your own image. It's like I recognize myself by how I sound in my head, and now I can also recognize what my recorded voice sounds like,
Sure.
which is like, oh, that's not my voice; it's a different voice, but it belongs to me.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
weird.
And then you try and
You can
figure out
create it.
you figure out how to alter it so that it
Yeah.
comes back sounding in a way that you want. But when you're singing, it might be totally bizarre for you to make that sound because in your own head it's like, this doesn't
Yeah.
sound right to me, but you're trying to manipulate this thing so that when it comes back to you, it's the way you wanted. Yeah, it's all bizarre. But
It's nuts.
yeah, I mean, so you had some stuff you wanted to sort of touch on in the music industry. I want to give you a platform to do that, Nick, because you wanted to get gritty, man. You were saying earlier.
You want to get some of
gritty
that
with
crust
what?
punk
Gritty.
going on.
Oh, the crust punk. Oh, that all I was saying was that these guys have nothing. They write songs under a bridge.
I was just talking shit. You
Yeah.
just
No, weren't you
wanted
talking-
to get into some.
Weren't you
some
talking about you want to get
questions
into
that you
like
had.
music industry kind of talk, or am I off my rocker?
Do I?
Yeah.
Oh, my questions for you guys.
Yeah.
That's what I was.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
You
Totally.
mentioned crust. It triggered the whole crust punk thing.
Yes,
That's
yeah.
not me.
I apologize. That was me not picking up what you were putting down.
Yeah.
That never happens to us, Nick. Though we have
Yeah,
the
so-
State Jam website.
Seamless
We,
segues every time.
We talked a little bit about it already. I know that in animation it's tough because, like I said, there's a bunch of kids who are like, passion is becoming an animator, and if I'm a producer, I know that, and I know that I can replace you at any second. Music, I didn't go to music school. I have music out there. Am I ruining the industry? Like, look at all these kids on SoundCloud. Like, they're decent producers on SoundCloud putting out free stuff. Like, there are so many highly skilled people and a ton of people who have been to, university or college for music,
Yeah.
and they're all competing with you guys. How do you handle that?
I say, good luck, bitches.
I mean, there's only one way to look at that situation that doesn't make you spiral into depression, and that's just to be positive about it, right? Like, the playing field has, in a lot of ways, never been more level. Anybody can make a record now.
Yes. Yeah.
In some other ways, it's more polarized than ever as well. Like, the labels still seem to control most of what's going on in terms of the most popular stuff. And with the amount of quote unquote noise, which I think is an ill-informed, ill-advised way to describe, the massive opportunity there is out there for everybody to make music if they want to. But if you want to sort of consider that like noise in the sense that it's hard to get noticed because there's so much going on, I think it's beautiful that there's so much going on, because like, if you want to make music, you can. That's amazing. I don't think anybody should take for granted, like, just because I went to school or just because I've been doing this for X number of years and this person's been doing it for way less time, that I deserve to get money for this and they don't. Or I deserve to get work and they don't.
Yes.
Or my stuff has value and theirs doesn't. That's all entitlement. That's all negativity to me.
Yeah.
So So, I mean,
like that.
I think there's one way of looking at it being like, well, back in the day, it was like there were gatekeepers and only the best people got a chance. And it's like, that's not true. It's never been true.
It won't ever be true.
And it won't ever be true. There's always ways to get noticed and ways to get ahead that don't involve having quote unquote better music or whatever. Like, none of that stuff really matters. I think at the end of the day, a great song is just as unstoppable as it's always been. And the people who are at the top, some of them came out of nowhere, or seemingly came out of nowhere, in terms of they weren't signed to a label, or they weren't, the son or daughter of somebody already rich and famous and stuff like that. But I think still even the quote unquote overnight success stories took 10 years. The people who truly rise to the top have really honed their craft and have really harnessed something really powerful, and they're doing it. So the fact that more people have the ability to get their voice out there, I think, if anything, it makes it even harder to have success, and that means that the best stuff is even better now. So
yeah,
I think it's a positive thing, and I think if you look at it in a positive way, there's way more opportunities for people like me, for example, who doesn't have any formal recording training, has never worked at a recording studio, but I have access to the tools, and I can actually work as a recording engineer and a producer. That would not have been possible 20 years ago, even 10 years ago.
Oh God, no. Yeah.
And there's so many different little crevices for people to sort of nestle into and find our niche and find a way to work. I don't know. I think it's more land of opportunity than it's ever been if you're willing to stick with it, and if you're a good guy and or a gal and you've got a good network, and you're willing to learn and you're willing to be flexible and ride the wave a little bit, there's a lot of opportunity out there.
Yeah, I feel like you were bringing up how do you compete, and I think that it's like you almost find your own things, like you were saying, Al. Like you find your own little niche. Like that's the perfect word. It's like you find your own little stuff that's gonna allow you, so that you're not really competing because you're kind of you.
It's not, yeah.
And also, another thing that you brought up too is the fact that there's so many people doing it. Like, yeah, your niche doesn't now just have to be playing. Like, if you wanted to make a recording plugin, best time to do it now. You know what I mean? People are buying recording plugins. If you made a recording plugin in the 90s, you would have to have so much money.
And it's not a competition, right? Like,
yeah,
that's the other thing that I think people need to realize or accept or whatever. It's not a competition. There is not enough content out there for the appetite that the public has, right? Like, there's never enough content. I mean, there's infinite content, but yet still there's new content every time, and people are hungry for new content every day, right? So I think another important thing is to consider that, like, the definition of a hit song or a hit record has somewhat shifted, right? Like, the number of units you have to sell now to get a gold record or a platinum record is way lower than it used to be, because CDs don't sell anymore, right? So, that's one example of the way the industry has shifted to sort of say, like, what's important and what's not. Used to be selling vinyl is the only thing that mattered. Then it was selling CDs is the only thing that mattered. Now, it's streaming is one of the only things that matters, and selling CDs less so, except if you're an artist and you're selling 1,000 copies of your record, you're making pretty good money. So, and you're reaching an audience that's dedicated to you.
You have the tools to reach them too.
So,
you got Facebook and the internet and all this stuff, all the marketing opportunities that you wouldn't have had in the 70s or 80s.
So you can reach an audience that's not nationwide, but you can find a smaller audience that will become dedicated to you and will support your craft. I think that's sort of what the goal is.
It's the dream. It's the dream, baby. But yeah,
That's a
no,
great answer.
That was a great answer. Al fucking had that one on.
Yeah. Oh my god.
What'd you say, sir?
What else you got for us, Nick?
Yeah.
Okay. Since Al basically just steamrolled over that. I have no other
Yeah, no.
That was a total KO on that one. So done. The other one that I want to talk about, and this is we kind of touched on it already, and it happens a lot in animation as well, or any art where I kind of thought about it when I wrote it down as like musician versus entertainer. So the idea that, there's this guy who's very traditional, like I'm a musician and I only play real music, and I guess Dave Grohl, right? And it's all about the music and da-da-da. And then there's somebody else who's like, I don't play music very well, but I put on these cool cheetah print pants and I entertain a bunch of people and I make millions and my voice is auto-tuned and I'm famous as hell.
That's interesting. I mean, so you're asking about what are our thoughts on both of those things?
I guess, kind of like, on the entertainment side, it seems like when people say, I want to be a famous musician, what they mean is like, I want to be an entertainer. I want to be on stage. I want to entertain people. And there's also this idea of like, a lot of people are like, that person can't sing. Why are they on this show? It's like, well, because they're entertaining. They're not musicking, they're entertaining.
I find that though sometimes too people will just say that because that's like almost like a stock thing to say. Justin Bieber's not talented, and it's like I don't think they'd invest that much money in him if he wasn't. I mean, obviously at first he was a really young dude. Maybe he wasn't as good of a singer as like Al, but like he's gained skills throughout this time, and I would say he's really talented.
He's definitely way better than me, by the way.
I don't know.
Have you heard him?
I feel like it's a very stock thing for people to say. Like I hear it from people all the time. They'll be like, "Oh, yeah, that person's not a very good singer." Even for some people, that it's like you can't even make that argument. Like I've heard people be like, "Ariana Grande's not that good," and I'm like, "What?
She's amazing. What are you talking about?"
Good. Like, well, they almost overestimate what auto-tune in a studio can do.
That's true. Yeah,
they can do a lot, but I've heard some bad singers who have gotten a lot done to their voice, and it does not sound like Ariana Grande. But
I had a teacher at Humber actually named Blair Packham, songwriting teacher, great guy. And he was talking about the concept of selling out and how people would be like, "Oh, I would never sell out. I don't want to sell out. This guy's a sellout. That guy's a sellout. Blah blah blah." He's like, "Sell out? Where do I sign? Where do I sign? I'll sell out." It's like, yeah, because it's not that easy, Like,
no,
that's exactly it.
The thing is that, like, whatever your perception is of what these people are doing at whatever level, if they're doing it at one of the highest levels out there, it's not easy. And like, they're if you don't think they're that good of a singer or good of a guitar player, they're extraordinarily good at something else, or they are just really good at singing and playing guitar, and you're not realizing that, or whatever. So,
or they're just not.
If people are doing this stuff at the highest level, then there's a very good reason for that, in my opinion. And I don't wish to take away from any of that. And I think I'm assuming a lot of that is jealousy, and also it's just
almost like elitism.
And like, honestly, man, it's 20, and I'm not talking to you, Nick, but I'm just saying it's like it's 2020, it's 2021, or whatever the hell year it is. It's like if you don't like something, don't listen to it.
Yeah.
Like
a million other things to listen to.
Yeah, like the radio isn't even a thing anymore. Just go on. I mean, it is, but go on Spotify. I mean, you can find exactly the type of music you want to hear.
Yeah,
because
you don't even have to find it; they found it for you.
Yeah,
the algorithm, baby.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you were talking about is like that sort of like bias, and like one of the things that I think is like a human condition is like elitism. Like I've heard so many people. Well, I haven't heard so many people, but I've heard a lot of artists who are maybe less successful or maybe really successful talking about how their music is the real music. Mm-hmm. They don't write any of that pop corporate bullshit.
Well, everybody,
and it's like, but someone at another level, like I heard Amy Winehouse kind of saying something along that lines, and I love Amy Winehouse, and I think her music's awesome and amazing. But there's some like quote unquote heavier dude. It's like Amy Winehouse. That's some watered down pop bullshit. You know what I mean? There's always another level
I
of
mean,
some
there's
crusty
always
dude.
everybody's always looking for ways to make themselves feel better and valuable, more important, right? But I mean, if you're making music and people are listening to it and they're enjoying it, that's amazing on any level.
Yeah.
If you're making music and 5 people hear it and they're like, "I love that," that's incredible.
That's hard to do, man.
Yeah, right.
It ain't easy being cheesy.
Oh
So-
no.
But so one of the
Easy.
things you brought up as well is like the musician versus or artist versus entertainer. I think that's the idea. Like artist, like who's an artist? Like who's a stereotypical artist that you would think of as a musician who's almost like an uncompromisable art figure? I can't think of one, but they exist. Like I don't know who.
Ooh. Oh, people.
Yeah.
You know, I
mean,
don't know. It's
They
tough because-
exist.
Can
Like
I-
singer songwriters. Like
Can I put out there that that's maybe an image that they've
That's
created?
exactly it. That's
Oh,
what-
yeah.
who's one like that.
Like-
And then there's the opposite where it's like someone who's like not a songwriter, they're purely an entertainer, or they songwrite but it's not their shtick. Like Pink,
Yeah.
you know, she does fucking like aerial shit during her performances and stuff like that. And like there's all ranges of that. The thing that I get is there are some people who can write songs and are amazing at that and amazing singers. Like fantastic singers that would never succeed in a performing sense because they're garbage performers. And that's just not an area
Yeah.
or that they've at least spent time putting forth like to learn, you know? And vice versa. There are some amazing performers that they're like "Ugh," they're kind of like okay singers or okay guitarists, you know?
But the beauty of this era that we're living in is you can really lean into the things that you're good at,
Yeah.
and that might be enough to find that niche. If you're a really great introspective singer-songwriter and you don't want to play shows, like you can get by potentially on just social media stuff and digitally
Yep.
releasing your music. And
Instagram, baby.
if you're not that good at social media, you can hire somebody to do that for you. And it's
Exactly.
like, so you can really lean into your strengths. And yeah, I mean, I don't believe that there's anybody truly unfallible out there. I mean, if they're putting out
Yes.
that vibe of like, I'm an artist and I answer to nobody, that's the vibe that they're putting out to
Oh yeah.
at least to answer
Sell
to their,
shit.
at least to answer to their audience, right? Like, I don't know. I mean,
I roll my eyes so hard when I see stuff like that, man. It's like we're all just fucking bullshitting. We're all just doing our best.
we're all just,
Oh, yeah.
You know, like,
all just
like,
flying
it's
by
all-
the seat of our
it's all
pants.
bullshit or it's all fucking art.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
like
but I
that.
do think that there is something to be said for the creative process, trying to respect it in a way where when you're making a song or a record, in my experience, trying not to think too far ahead in terms of promotion or where would this be placed or like what genre
That's cool.
is this or where am I going to release this to or how long should this be. Generally, those conversations are always had, of course, when music is being made. But I think the further we can stay away from that, usually results in a better end product. Just because like there's a good chance that if you make a record and you put it out, there's a good chance it's not gonna do well just because of there's a million other records out there and you never know how good your stuff is. But if you compromised on something because you were like, well, I want to make this more appealing or approachable to a mass audience, so I'm not going to put this extra bridge in this song, and then the song doesn't do well, then in the back of your mind you're always going to be like, maybe it would have been better if I had done that. But if you stick to your guns and you're like, I love this song that I made and I think it's great, I'm going to put it out there. If people don't like it, at least you still love it. And you can be like, I did my best. I stuck to my guns, So that's always been my take
That's a
on
really
that.
good point. And then you could call yourself a true artist and put that on your website.
That's right. Yeah. Hashtag art. Hashtag
True
art.
art.
True art.
Yeah, that is a funny conversation. I'm sure you get that all the time with animators and stuff like that, like just elitism and shit like that. Like, ooh, I went to this school. Me.
I mean, luckily, not so much anymore because we all recognize we're all basement dwelling points, so
Yeah.
we all get along in
Okay,
the same weird way.
Here's a question for you. How long did it take you to realize that physical distancing is essentially just what you were doing anyways?
Oh my God, immediately. I was, I was like, we go into lockdown. I'm like, perfect.
Yeah.
Like I just moved from Toronto to Kitchener. We got a bigger place. I had my own office. I was working remotely anyway.
Yeah.
And now I just get to see my girlfriend all the time.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, you're just living the dream, man. I'm living the
Yeah.
dream right now. It's terrible, but Michael Habs is having a great time.
On record.
All right, I gotta kind of get going. We've been going pretty long so far, but it's been fun, man.
Yeah, it was great chatting.
Do you
with
want to hit us with like one last thing, or do you want to just sort of shout out where people can find you and all that kind of stuff?
Man, I just ran. Those are all my questions. So
Okay.
Thank you.
I have something to do before we
Oh yeah.
before we go. I have something to show you.
Okay.
So there was a mishap today.
A
There's
mishap.
a mishap today. I'm going to take my headphones off.
Okay. Oh no, you tried to cut
My
your own
girlfriend
hair?
wanted to cut my hair. Actually, partially inspired by Al's haircutting
Yeah.
situation.
Mine looks great. Thanks.
I can't hear anything you're saying, but the clipper died in the middle of the cut,
No.
and I'm stuck with that.
No, the whole back. Turn around. Show us the back.
It fucking like
Wow. That's funny. So he just clipped sort of
Oh,
just
that's
from
a-
the front to just
Yeah.
to the ears, and everything else is still long. That's funny.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's rough.
that's a good Tiger King mullet look though.
Yeah,
You can grow into
Well,
that.
so I got a little bit of clipper before we started whatchamacallit. I like recharged it and like
Oh, yeah.
I got the other side, but
Good,
I
yeah.
evened it out. But I
Yeah.
gotta get more. I
Yeah.
gotta get all the way around. But I'll do that tonight.
That's
I love
funny.
how like the COVID cut is getting your girlfriend to do the disconnected undercut
Yeah.
on your hair.
Yeah.
Yes.
As you can
yes.
see, we're all
We're all
It's
rocking
easy.
it. We're
we have
all
the COVID
rocking
cut,
it.
baby.
Yeah. The
I actually might
COVID
just keep it this
cut.
way then. The
It's-
Tiger King cut. The
It's
true cut.
timely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Topical.
True Tiger
I
King.
really hope he survives. I hope Joe turns the tide of his life.
We can only hope.
He's got COVID.
Does he?
Does he?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
geez.
he's got COVID.
That's sad.
From what I understood.
No.
And then somebody posted that 2020 has become a meme of a meme. And it's very true.
Well, that
Man, something's going
that
on.
would have happened anyways.
Yeah. Anyways, that's I just wanted to show you guys my poor
Yeah.
haircut.
That's
Oh
That's
man.
dope.
Good
Well,
times.
Nick, we can't thank you enough for coming on the show, man. We'd love
Yeah, it's
to.
great
Guys,
chatting with you,
thanks for having me. It was
We'd
an
love to
absolute
do this
pleasure.
again in the
What's your
future.
type this in the chat afterwards. What's your Steam name, man? You play Steam games?
I don't.
You suck.
What I do is I usually just emulate really old, it's like top
oh.
10 games for blank system, and then I
Nice.
just
Yeah,
play
yeah.
all the old hits. you
Yeah.
know?
That's
I
dope.
love doing that.
Yeah. So
Shit.
Well, everybody go check out Nick's music. He's Mayburry on Spotify, Mayburry. Do you have a YouTube channel as well? the
I do.
music
I
videos?
don't know it off the top. You Instagram look for Nick Maybury, Mayburry.
All right, on Instagram, Nick Mayburry on Instagram.
Nick.Maybury.
Nick.Maybury. And what else was I going to say? Yeah, the songs are called, the two singles that you have out right now are called Crazy Starts with A, and the second song is called The Wrong Side of 25. So definitely go give them a listen, give them some love. The songs are great. You'll enjoy them for sure. You can check us out, musicguypodcast.com. We got a YouTube channel, lots of new videos coming all the time. Instagram, Facebook, you name it. I'm at Alro Music on Instagram.
I'm at Bruno the Meek on Instagram.
And we would love if you would share this podcast with your friends. Leave some
Oh my
comments. The live stream of this video podcast is going to be available on our YouTube channel. Please leave some comments. YouTube.com/musicguypodcast. I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's all we got.
Thank you, Nick. Thanks everybody for
Thanks,
listening.
guys.
Carol fucking Bass. That's what I'm gonna edit it out. Anyways, I'm gonna stop recording.
Okay, I'm good. I'm stopped recording.
It's good to hang with you, Nick.
That was awesome, man.
I'm just making sure I absolutely have saved my audio, and I
Fuck yeah. If not, we'll work with it.
Okay, I think I did it. Okay. Whew.
Beauty.
I can
So,
speak.
Are you guys still there? Oh, I can't hear you. Oh no, what have I done? Hold on, BRB.
Be on because I've listened to a
Oh,
lot
there
of
we
these,
are.
Yeah,
and
I noticed you were on the
I
chat.
can finally speak back to
Yeah.
you.
You don't have to speak
It's
through
great.
chat.
Yeah.
I closed Pro Tools and it that was dumb.
Ah,
Cut my audio off. All right.
So you'll get him to send it to the Music Guy podcast email or something like that, and then I'll just fucking...
Yeah. If you send it to
type it in the chat. I'll copy paste it.
yeah, all right. Oh, Mike's on it.
I got it. It's this one, right?
Yeah. Yep. That's perfect. Yeah. And then we'll sync all that stuff up.
Beauty.
Dope.
Alrighty, boys. I'm gonna stop the stream actually.